Welcome to Zoom. So the first order of business then is to approve the agenda. Any changes, additions?
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There are none. Is Mr. Wingate on? Because I can't see him.
I am, but I don't have a video.
Okay, well, just make yourself
Fine.
heard if you need to say something.
I will.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Sure thing. Communications and public response, we have none, so we'll skip right over to old business. If you would review the minutes, or if you have reviewed the minutes, we've got to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on April 4th and the meeting on April 13th. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the regular minutes for April 4th, 2023, and April 13th, 2023.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There are none. The minutes are approved. We'll move right into the monthly operations report for April.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the monthly operations report on page 15, we will start with the Deputy Director Projects.
Good morning, Board. For the month of April, worked on the summer internship program. We have been approved and given approval to move forward with 3 summer interns. 2 of those interns will be assigned to the Information Systems Division, and the 3rd will be assigned to the VEO, Voter Education and Outreach Division. We are waiting the posting of the link for applicants to begin to apply for that, and any applicant or interested parties that have already reached out, once we will do follow-up with those applicants once the application has been posted. The audit update, I will provide that report later down in the agenda if that's okay. Internal operations, we continued our work towards performance evaluations. We've set up several trainings. We conducted our performance evaluation training with HR as of yesterday. Cross-training and local certifications, we're continuing to work with the department to have the entire department complete the local certification, as well as implementing a cross-training program that we are currently putting together the schedule. This concludes my monthly report, and I'm open for questions at this time.
Questions? How are we going to do outreach on the interns? And thank you and congratulations on that. It'll be great to get some students in here who might want to check us out for a future career.
Yes, ma'am. So for outreach, we have several initiatives. There's some projects that we're looking at having them specifically dedicated to. For instance, for example, an assessment of the, impact of our voter education outreach. Secondarily, will be assisting with the academy that we're currently working on.
But how are you going to do the outreach to find the students or?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's all
ma'am.
right.
That will be through HR, so they're doing the recruitment and so again, once we post the application, we'll begin to get those applications. They'll be screened, and the regular recruiting process will come through HR.
Okay.
So then, once we get those names, we'll do interviews and
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Mr.
Am I
Johnson?
answering your question?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson has a question.
Is this high school or
No,
college?
sir, this is college. So it's from freshman to senior, and then I think a year in graduate is the parameter.
So they'll probably be pulling from the Fulton County Summer Youth Internship Program,
No, sir, I believe they're
going outside.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Mr. Wingate, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, this is great for anybody who's watching. If you have a college student that might have an interest in an internship with us, pay attention to the HR listings on the Fulton County website? Is that how? Or reach out to any one of us, and we'll try to direct you in the right direction. Okay, next step.
Okay. On page 16, absentee.
Good morning. In the month of April, we monitored all outlets for absentee requests. We updated procedures for Jarvis and the municipal election. We interviewed and hired supplemental staff, submitted reef tickets to make the SOS aware of any issues we faced in Jarvis. We met with the VR division to discuss the transfer of duties for provisional ballots, attended deputy registrar training. We visited the Cobb County Elections Office to view a live demonstration of the vote-by-mail equipment. We completed our election certification mandated by the state. Last Friday, May 5th, was the last day to submit an absentee application. To date, we have mailed out 5 ballots, and we've received 4 out of the 5 ballots back. This concludes the absentee report.
Any questions?
Thank you for your report. How many Jarvis tickets were submitted?
About 4 or 5.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about what the issues were?
Yes, a few of the issues, well, we were able to process an application, but we were not able to accept the ballot. And so once we submitted the request, we were able to accept the ballot, but we're no longer able to process an application. We're not able to enter the overseas addresses for UOCAVA voters. The absentee reports were not working properly. So those are the few I can remember.
And has it been resolved?
Some has been resolved. We are in touch with the state, so it's ongoing. They're working it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Great, thank you for your report.
On page 17, administration.
Good morning, board and citizens. For the month of April, we conducted routine administrative functions such as submitting requisition to establish purchase orders and submitted invoices for payments. We also submitted process HR functions such as processing bi-weekly payroll and process requisitions for recruitment. Under our recruitment, these are the status. For the registration officers, we conducted interviews and we are currently going through the process of electing those candidates. For the registration managers position, interviews were conducted. We made a selection and submitted it to HR. We are expected to onboard that applicant in May. For Administrative Coordinator 1, we are currently going through the interviewing process, and we're hoping to onboard in June. For the Voter Education and Outreach Coordinator Lead, interviews were conducted, and the selected candidate has been onboarded already. For the executive assistant, we are still going through the process of the interviewing. For election chief, interviews were collected and we have onboarded the selected candidate. In regards to intergovernmental agreements, today we are requesting approval for the city of Alpharetta and for the city of College Park. All the others that were approved at the last board meeting, including Alpharetta and College Park, we are planning to present this to the Board of Commissioners in June. This concludes the report for April 2023. Thank you.
Questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes?
Um, who is the new election chief since they have been onboarded?
I plan to introduce him when we got to the elections report, but our new elections chief is John Ross. He's sitting here to my right. So we are proud to announce that Mr. John Ross comes to us with, he's a promotional position with 9 years of elections experience with information technology, supplies logistics, experience. So we're looking forward to Mr. John Ross enhancing the elections division.
Good. Well, congratulations, Mr. Ross.
Would you care to say something?
Appreciate it, sir.
Well, welcome.
Most welcome.
We'll get you to say more later, don't worry.
Thank you.
Okay, so on page 18, advanced voting.
Hi, good morning, board. For the month of April, we have started and conducted the House District 68 election. Staff was trained, and their feedback evaluation was basically saying that they found the new system to be more efficient and less error-prone moving forward. To date, for House District 68, we have a slow turnout, but the feedback from the poll and from the public is that the cellular poll pad will be positive, again, efficient. At the end of advanced voting, which is Friday, we plan to hold a round table with our staff to get a feedback and how the processes have been working. We also have implemented a real-time early voting monitoring, whereas we included an hourly reconciliation. And why the reason why I'm doing that, because when I did my manual, I did it step by step as a process for the cellular poll pad. So for the real-time monitoring, they are now going to see if it actually is working. And any errors, identifying any errors, any weaknesses, any failures for us to improve moving forward for the municipal election. And that concludes the end of my report. But I did want to say in addition that you have in front of you the House District 68 where we actually processed 312 voters thus far. And when I called Fayetteville this morning, they processed 524. So the turnout has been very slow from Fulton County and Fayetteville. That's concluded my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
So you have seen, just from the new process, it's a smoother, easier process?
Yes, it is. Efficient process.
So after you said Friday, you're going
Friday's
to,
the last day of early voting. We're doing lifetime monitoring. So after that, I'm gonna call the staff back in to do a roundtable Zoom meeting to get additional feedbacks.
So after you do the feedback, can you let us know what that feedback was?
I sure
You know,
will.
just kind of a quick summary of, from the managers and from the poll workers, the differences, is it better, is it, what makes it hard, et cetera?
Yes, I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we'll move on.
On page 20, finance.
Good morning, Board. The finance update for April is that we have updated the 2023 elections budget. We're continuing to monitor the budget to actual results for the special election for House District 68. We are updating the November and December budget and finalizing that currently as we prepare for having all the IGAs back to be able to get the final approval with finance on the November and December budget. We also have completed the audit work that we've done to supply everything needed for the financial audit review that was done by Fulton County Internal Audit. So that's pretty much the summary of the finance. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments? No? Thank you very much, appreciate it. And I'm assuming we're gonna go over the audit, so I'm sure we'll have questions relative to that. Thank you.
Okay, my apology, I skipped page 19. So I'm going to page 19 for elections. And again, I'm happy to announce it will be my last election report. In regards to elections, there's no concerns with the May 16th election. All is running smoothly at this time. We have, in regards to the November election, we have received back the IGAs, except for the city of Atlanta. It is in process of being turned into us, but we are waiting upon that. In regards to precinct location changes, our plan is to present those to the board in June. We're hoping we will be able to do that at the June 8th meeting. If not, it will be definitely completed by the July meeting. But there are no other concerns for elections.
Questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. And also on page 19 for Election Day, recruitment is currently taking place for the May 16th election. It actually has been completed, and training will commence in the upcoming weeks. And we are well, actually, training has been completed for the May 16th election. So everybody has been onboarded and is ready to assist with that election on Tuesday.
Go ahead.
I do have one question back from elections. How did the municipalities, Milton and Palmetto, do with their self-conducted elections? Do you know?
Well, we have given, that won't be until November, but we have given them a support. There are some things that we do have to support them with, things that they cannot, they don't have access to Jarvis, so we do have to offer that support. So we did provide them a summary of who to contact, what documents are needed, and what deadlines those documents are needed by. So we have sent that to Palmetto and to Milton in preparation for November.
Okay, and you feel like they'll be ready? You think so? Well, I mean,
Right, I don't know what their plans are at this time, but as far as what aspect for our involvement, we'll be ready to support them on the things that we're required to support them with.
okay, and it's clear that all of the equipment that you're providing them is free? Is it-
Yes, at this time, we have not received an equipment lease IGA, but there would be no charge, but we have not received that request at this time.
Okay, I just had some folks call to say it wanted to know if there was a cost, and thanks for getting that information to me quickly. Thanks.
But just to clarify, there's a cost to utilize the machines, right? Don't they have to go through
They have
Dominion
to go through the manufacturers. There's costs associated with that, but there's not a cost that we charge them.
Right, okay, great, thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, one quick question on that.
Sure.
Will the county provide technical support to Palmetto and Milton on the machines?
No, that is also, would have to go through the manufacturer as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next.
Okay, so if I'm on the correct page, page 21, Information Systems, Mr. Lomo's not in today, but we are currently LNA is taking place. We have no concerns at this time in regards to being prepared for the new equipment, nor do we have any concerns in regards to the May 16th election. So all equipment is ready to be operable for the May 16th election.
Questions? I have a question. Just looking at the new poll pads, there was a story in the paper about that and the cost. I guess the governor vetoed the funding for that, but we now have the new poll pads in our possession. Is that correct?
Yes, we do
And do-
have.
And do
some
you
in
know
our
about
possession.
how many we'll use at any given, I guess, 250 for the number of precincts that we have?
For the November election, it depends on the location.
Right.
I don't have the actual figure, but I would say at least 4 or more per location.
Okay.
For election day.
So 4 or more. So if we had a regular election, like a federal election, and we have 250 polling places times 4, then we're talking about 1,000. Plus any of the data fees that have been mentioned and however those roll out. So it's not insignificant. When people come down here and talk to us about the increased cost of elections, understand that while we welcome this new equipment, it does create an additional financial burden for local taxpayers that, you know, is unavoidable. We don't have a choice about whether we spend that money or don't spend that money. So I think people should note that, and if they have concerns about that, right across the street, you can talk to folks who can do something about it. Anything else? Okay, next.
On page 22, registration.
Good morning. In the month of April, we processed applications. We attended the Jarvis Q&A. We drafted the procedures for the new processes in Jarvis. We made several corrections to our voter rolls. We updated all correspondence that we mailed to voters. We also updated our county website, and we began to draft, as Nadine stated, the municipal support document, letting them know if they have street issues, if they have any type of registration issues, who they could contact. Also, we worked closely with GIS and a third-party vendor who helped us perform a full audit so that we were able to identify several things within the voter rolls. And that will conclude the report for the month of April.
Questions?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Marshall, for the record, on your report, the registration statistics, you may want to, before you actually go to archive this, you may want to change the active voters and inactive voters. I believe those numbers on this report are flip-flopped.
Yes, I will. So correction, the active number of, thank you, Mr. Wingate, active number of registered voters is 758,811, and the number of inactive voters is 103,242, bringing us to a total number of 862,053 registered voters.
All right, other questions? I got a lot of paper on my desk. I got a couple of questions. Could somebody hand me the last paper we got relative to the work we're doing on cleanup? Yeah, thank you. Is that it? Yeah.
That will be, yeah, on item number 5.
Oh, we're going to go back and talk
Yes.
about that in some depth? Okay, never mind. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Continue.
On page 23, supplies and logistics.
Good morning, Board. Currently, the Supplies and Logistic Department is working on preparation for supply requirements for the May 16 special election, while also supporting the current advanced voting location. Staff has been actively collecting retention boxes from each division. These boxes are being organized, documented, and palletized for the move and also for future storage. Also, courier staff has collected secure shredded items from each division. These items were delivered to the IT warehouse on May 2nd. All polling locations for the May 16 special election has been confirmed, and all equipment will be delivered on May 16th. On May 15th, and all locations will be picked up on May 17th. Our poll manager Sunday supply pickup and also our election night supply drop-off will be conducted at the South Annex for this special election. This concludes my report for supply and logistics. Thanks.
Any questions? So I note our election central move date then starts on July 10th?
That's correct.
And when do you expect will be complete?
We should be completed by the end of July.
Okay.
Our last move date is July 25th or 26th. And we'll plan the grand opening after that date. But at this point, we should be done by the end of July.
Okay, great, thank you. Other questions?
And when do you anticipate the grand opening? I'm excited.
We are working with communications to plan that event. We have a tentative date of August, for the August board meeting. Yes, for the August board meeting, I think it's August 10th. So that's tentative at this time, but we will announce that when it's ready.
I certainly hope there will be cupcakes. All right, moving on.
On page 23, voter education.
Good morning, board members and citizens in the audience and watching online. For voter education in April, we focused on awareness for the District 68 election. So we reached out to the municipalities impacted to plan a few more events. And we did see a little traffic go to the precinct from those events, just trying to get awareness out. We're still working with schools for those who want us to do voter registration for those high school seniors. Working on, we did a lot of deputy register training for those new and those who need to be recertified, and training of our staff for deputy register training, as well as continuing to reach out and do outreach to all the cities. We'll be focusing in on moving forward, planning the municipal fairs for the upcoming November elections and events out in all of the cities again, to ensure that we are doing education and awareness of the election going forward. So that was our focus for this past month, as well as making sure we're following up on all the legislation that will go into effect July 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
That concludes the operations report.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, waiting on me. All right, so we're going to do the list maintenance update now.
Good morning again. You have before you the voter list maintenance update document. It's a one-page analysis of the changes that we received and the changes that we have made. As far as duplicates on our Jarvis dashboard, when this process began, which was March 8th, there were 1,098 duplicates. As of May 9th, we are down to 6. So we have merged the duplicate records that were on our dashboard received from the SOS. The next category you will have, or we have, is the GIS department summary. Wish I had the previous one. Addresses not found previously were 6,099. We resolved all of those issues, and there are a current number of records to review being 0. So we were able to resolve all of those. Duplicate records, GIS department found 1,705. We were able to resolve, majority of them were simplified, but we have 566 remaining. Those are the ones that we will have to use another system, which is the Department of Driver Services, to ensure that we are conducting the correct research and not merging any fathers and sons. So it requires a little bit more research, so we have 566 remaining of the 1,705. Previously, there were 1,600 888 and 999 records. We currently have 1,100 remaining. In reviewing these, we are seeing that some people are in cancel status, and a way or a precinct that a voter shows up in the system is as 999. So most of them, they'll be easy to resolve, because if they're in cancel status, there'll be nothing for us to do for them. But we will continue to work through reviewing those last 1,100. Of the missing address, we're currently working with the SOS to come up with the best practice. Missing address was basically addresses that came over from ElectionNet. Previously in ElectionNet, if a voter did not provide a valid residential address, there was a street range or a street segment created with the street name being missing address. In Jarvis, we do not do that. We don't have that option. So all valid residential addresses will have to be provided. We did mail letters to these missing addresses, but of course they do not, that's the law, so we followed that, but of course they do not reach the voter. So we're working with the SOS to see and our legal team, to see what's the best practice for those 953 people. Okay. The registration division will conduct additional research of the findings listed above, and we have an estimated completion date of May 24th. So for the Fulton County GIS Department summary, we will have the remaining records to review resolved by May 24th. We are also working with GIS, and we have confirmed a routine schedule, even though we're working out the kinks of how the file will be submitted to them. We have confirmed a routine schedule of biweekly. So as we make these changes, our GIS department will conduct another or provide an updated summary of the voter file. And the last category that we have is the Blue Raster summary, which was concluded on April 30th. Of those, of these records, 12,412 are addresses that have been identified as business addresses, but we are going to go through them to confirm that they are business addresses before we mail letters to the voters asking them to update their registration. They also found that 26,044 addresses could not be verified, meaning that the address was mapped, but it did not meet the geocoding threshold. So it just couldn't be verified as a valid residential address. So we're going through those in order to make a determination. How we do that is use like Google Maps and Bing and the county assessor's website to see if those are valid residential addresses. And last but not least, they also found that 7,704 of the addresses were unmapped, meaning that they just could not find an address point. So we'll have to conduct individual research on those addresses as well, using the same resources. The registration division is researching the addresses that Blue Raster identified with an estimated completion date of June 16th. And I also wanted to note to everyone that with the new system, we have experienced their enhancements are incremental. So it results in significant lag time to receive reports, for us to process corrections or make edits and receive the results back from the actions that we have taken into the system. But they, as Jody stated, they are still working on the reports, and they have May 25th as an expected date that the reports are to be fully operational. Future updates. This report will be submitted as a part of my, or the registration division monthly operations report. So we will provide this summary report every month moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? I see Mr. Johnson.
Probably as we go along, some of these questions will fall off. But the first thing that I was going to ask is about the unmapped addresses. And actually, unmapped addresses, addresses that could not be verified and missing, well, those two for now. Could this be a situation where there's maybe a new subdivision or something like that? And I know it may be a little more difficult because now Fulton County doesn't do zoning. The individual cities do it, because it seems like before you could go to planning and kind of cross-reference. Do you have a plan for trying to see if this is a new subdivision, and then you're also going to possibly, and I don't know this to be the case, commercial, if a developer owns the property at first, I know it's zoned residential, but I don't know this to be the case, but if a developer owns the property, it'll be listed as the developer, and then say they sell it on Wednesday, person gets their address, and then they get their little basket that says, this is your address and here's your voter registration. They submit it. Has the county caught up with that? Because it used to be a problem. I don't know if it's still a problem.
So to answer the second part of your question, I don't think that's a problem at this time. But the first part, yes, we have came up with a plan in identifying the addresses. We work with the third-party vendor in our GIS department to ensure that, because there are multi-use purpose properties. So for example, as you stated, the municipalities conduct the street maintenance now, in which what we have taken the initiative to do is to send out the street list to every municipality to have them to review it, ask them if anything is missing, are there any new subdivisions that our office needs to know about, if any street names are misspelled, and we will make those corrections and send a finalized list back to them. So we're just trying to be proactive to make sure that within the last 2 to 3 years, we have made all updates, like with that Confederate Avenue situation that we had before. We have identified or worked with GIS if a Starbucks is at the top of a building or at the bottom, and then there's residences at the top. We had to work with the third-party vendor to let them know that that is a valid residential address. It's just that there's a business listed on the property. We've gone as far as if people are registered at like the storage space units. We didn't know until we conducted research that at the storage space units, they provide the managers with a house on the property. And people have showed us their lease agreement. And so, yeah, we are diving really deep, going through everything with the fine-tooth comb. Some of those addresses could be, possibly new subdivisions. So we've reached out. We had a city call us back yesterday. Hey, we just built up a new property. These are the street names. Could you create so we are working closely with them as well. We receive emails back every day, and we're making the necessary changes in hopes that the voter rolls will be clean and we'll be aware of all new addresses.
And lastly, the missing addresses. Do you show where this 953, have these voters voted with missing addresses, or they're just on the roll right now?
That's a great question. In looking at it, the registration, so there's always a difference in registering to vote and actually, exercising the right. So in looking back, people registered in the early 2000s, 2007, 2008, and they just registered and never came to vote. So majority, and we can have that in our next report, but majority of the 953 voters do not have a voter participation history. They're just on there, and then we have the address that they gave us in order to register listed as the mailing, and that's where we mailed the letters to. So just for everyone's listening, we didn't mail a letter to 953 missing address. We mailed it to 953 Main Street, which was the, supposed address. So we're trying to reach out to them in order to clean the rolls up, but there has been no contact with majority of those people.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Dr. Ruth?
Yeah, thank you so much for this hard work. I know it's not easy, it's very tedious, but it really is important that we have accurate voter registration lists, so thank you. Along the questioning of Mr. Johnson, with the missing addresses and unmapped and addresses that cannot be verified, is there, in working with the vendor, is there the plan to look at other people search databases to do some crosstab to see if those names, they may have an accurate address in other databases? I'm thinking like LexisNexis, these are people search databases that a lot of companies use.
So to answer your question, no, not with the third-party vendor, but that is something that we could consider to see and look, use other resources to see if someone is registered at another address or if it is, in fact, a valid residential address. But no, not with the third-party vendor. But Our goal is to get with our GIS department and have them to assist us, and we have several other resources or GIS resources that have been provided to us from our department. So we'll go through those in order to match them up, before anyone is, mailed a letter. We want to make sure.
And so these persons that are missing addresses, unmapped, they're also in the SOS system as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so those lists, they were not part of our removal list that we received for the SOS, or were they?
Were they a part of our removal list from the SOS?
Or a list that the SOS provides that needs further investigation?
No, ma'am,
okay.
they were not.
They were not, okay.
These were discovered internally with our voter roll review within our GIS department.
Great, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Wingate, did you have any questions?
Yeah, a quick one. Ms. Marshall, on those that you have labeled under the blue raster process, there's roughly about 46,000 records all in. Based on the conclusion of the work and investigation that you're doing now, that you're going to conclude sometime next month, all of those that you will not be able to or cannot verify, what then becomes the disposition of that voter record?
We're working with the SOS, and that's a question or an answer that I will have to get from them, because as we all know, we cannot remove people or change their status without like a signature or them being, contacting our office. So we'll reach out to them, and then I'll provide you an answer at the next meeting.
Okay, that's fair enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question. Anything else? Great. Well, thank you for moving this along and getting us to a place where these numbers are minimized. And I look forward to the report next month and see how we've done. Thank you. Okay. The next piece of old business is approval of intergovernmental agreements from the City of Alpharetta and City of College Park to conduct their municipal elections.
Yes, we have received the IGAs from the City of Alpharetta and City of College Park to conduct their November 2023 election and are seeking board approval to conduct those elections.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the IGAs between the City of Alpharetta, the cities of Alpharetta and College Park.
Properly moved
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? There are none. Thank you. The motion carries. New business, reviewing the county auditor's follow-up report.
Good afternoon again, Board. So to provide, I guess, overview and summary, again, we completed our follow-up to the initial financial review audit that we underwent last year. This time around, the county auditor identified 9 findings from the audit. They identified 9 findings. Finding 1, a lack of departmental SOPs. Finding 2, inconsistent procurement procedures. Finding 3, untimely payment of invoices. Finding 4, lack of supporting documentation. Finding 5, improper payment services. Finding 6, inadequate safeguarding of assets. Finding 7, the failure to comply with grant requirements, return of unused funds. Finding 8, failure to comply with grant requirements obligated, not satisfied. And finding 9, inadequate departmental accountability and oversight of financial transactions. and then they had a concern of misclassification of expenditures. Again, these are the findings from the original audit that we underwent last year. So in the follow-up, the county auditor summarized their findings, as, they found the department addressed the 9 findings, so we had improvement in addressing the 9 findings identified. Of those 9, they classified 4 of the findings that were fully implemented, 5 that were partially implemented, and 1 recommendation or finding that was in progress. The one that was in progress is in reference to our departmental SOPs. Reason being, we received a mark or classification of in progress is due to the Jarvis implementation and needing to update those SOPs. The remaining that were partially implemented were due to around our financial transactions, but again, in the responses from our department, they were based upon the end of year closeout from the county's aspect and our ability to pay those invoices that were coming in after, basically for us to conduct the December runoff is the reason why those findings were discovered or identified. And again, those further in-depth response or context to those are in the management responses that we provided back to the county auditor. In closing, if I can say, although I am providing the audit report, all the kudos and credit goes to the staff, particularly finance and administration, who did the primary legwork to make sure that we were staying up to date and in compliance with the audit as far as the submission of documentation and any kind of other assistance that came along. So again, kudos to the staff. At this time, again, that was the summary, but if we'd like to discuss further, I'm open for questions.
Okay. Questions?
No real question, just good job to the team. It was good to see I was looking for the red line when I first got this, and we didn't have a red line anyway, so that's a great compliment. And the fact that, you're right, the in progress, the only one that was in yellow was one because of Jarvis, so just wanted to say good job to the team.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Wingate?
No, thank you very much. So.
Great, thanks. Well, I just want to echo what Mr. Johnson said, and also say that, you know, the review of the standard operating procedures is going to be something that is going to go through a whole bunch of iterations this year. I don't think we'll really see a completion point until we get to the end of the year. I say that really for the general public because once we move into our new facility and start to get used to moving around the new facility and how we're going to operate in the new facility, it's going to take yet another full review of all the standard operating procedures to make sure that they're adapted to our new environment. So, you know, for folks who are looking to see that, you know, turn into completed, that's going to take a minute, but it's high on the list of priorities, and we'll all be checking back on that as we go forward. But thank you for that, and thank you again to all the staff for this, and again for the general public and others watching for understanding that when we have elections that run right up to the end of the year and we're waiting on folks to get us invoices, it's quite a scramble for us to meet the normal deadlines that the county has for receiving invoices and paying invoices in the appropriate time frame. And I think y'all have done an excellent job of trying to wrangle that, so thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our meeting. Is there any reason for us to go into executive session or any motion for that? Seeing none, anybody got anything else before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn then is appropriate?
Motion to adjourn at 11 o'clock.
Seconded.
Second.
at 11:23.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion carries. We're adjourned.
You know, that's
Have
2
a
weeks
good-
in a row.
have a
we're
good day,
under an
everyone.
hour. 2 meetings in a row.